Today we are here to work on the analytics part. As Chetan rightly pointed out, that data is the new oil. This is something all of us have been hearing over and over again, right? But the point is that, just like oil was available under the desert for so many years, and it was only when we figured out how to extract it and use it for automobiles, it became precious. Similarly, analytics helps you convert this data to insights, and the importance of insights is that it helps make great decisions. Yes, at HR Pros, we do corporate workshops, and we hope that in case you find any of this interesting and want to sort of learn more, you could contact us. You can contact me at subhashini at hrpros.in, and my phone number is also here. Now, why do I claim that I do analytics and I do it well? Well, the first thing is that I guess at the end of a decade of experience, and after seeing how analytics was panning out for financial services and customers, I took an effort to understand if we could create a measurement tool for talent data and then analyze it to improve the decision making capability of human resources. In my view, this is a big ask, how to convert this data into insights. And it gives a big leg up to us people in human resources when we can talk to business on the basis of data and not only on the basis of anecdotes. So this was the aim. And to this purpose, me and my co-founder at Pexitics, we have actually written a book called HR Analytics in Depth, and we hope that you will follow our YouTube channel, which is completely free, and see how you can use the data in your organization to make great decisions. So the topic today is hiring better through analytics. And, as I mentioned to you, we started off by creating a tool called Pexitest. You can look us up, where you can do various measurements in the easiest possible manner to understand how your talent database is looking. Because yes, it is true that though many organizations have HRMS, HRIS systems, there is still not a very structured approach in organizations to manage talent. So the first thing that I guess any organization which has enough data goes in for, and which it should go in for, is a recruitment dashboard. This is very, very important to understand how the data flows, how your recruitment funnel goes.
So actually, just to add to that, as
Yes,
a recruiter,
yes,
what happens is we are so focused on, the candidate, talking to candidate, getting the requirement filled, and we really don't, look at a dashboard. So most of the time when we talk about dashboard, what we would be looking at, what is our pipeline, how many candidates are going to join next Monday. This is typically, how a recruiter looks like. And I mean, if I look back my career, and I'm sure most of you would agree. So whenever we are asked for a dashboard, our question is that do you want the dashboard or do you want the candidate? So, but yes, over a period of time, we have also realized how important it is for us to build a proper dashboard. And thanks to HRMS and all, a lot of information which we have is, instead of being on an Excel, on a Word, or on the the diary of the individual recruiter, everything is available online, and including the interview notes also, if we look at it. And so the first step, of starting any analytics journey is that we look at, what kind of a dashboard is required. And the requirement for dashboard could be, for multiple types of dashboard we would need, depending on who are our stakeholders, whether our stakeholder is the hiring manager, it is the management which is asking for the, a better prediction on the funnel or the vacant positions, because some of these positions are, have a revenue impact. Or even from a recruiter perspective, that how many candidates are going to join next week, what is our pipeline for subsequent week, which are our sources which are working. So there could be so many different, parameters, and there could be so many different views which each of the stakeholders would have. And while we may not be able to get into each of the individual dashboards as to what an hiring manager should look at it, what a recruiter should look at it as a dashboard, and what a management should look at a dashboard, but as Subhashini will take us through the journey, it will help us, build a generic data dashboard, which we can obviously develop it and customize it further for our usage. While we do talk about ATS and HRMS, it is important, but some of it, we can even the idea is that even if you don't have an ATS or HRMS, some of the tools and things we will be talking about, you can do this based on simply on using an Excel formula.
Correct.
So over to you, Subhashini. Yeah.
Right. So Amitabh has got it absolutely right. And at this minute, as I'm sure you are convinced that this is a great place to start, I would request you to just take this more small poll to understand that is your organization using dashboards for recruitment or not. Neetu, are you running the poll?
Subhashini, I'm running the poll.
Okay, great.
So you want the hiring dashboard poll? One
Yes,
question,
yes,
right?
yes, absolutely.
All right. Neetu, can you check?
As far as questions are
So,
concerned, please have your questions continue, and we will, once the set of the presentation is over, we will try and take those questions also.
absolutely.
Yeah, please have your
Maybe,
questions keep on coming. There's
yes,
yeah,
we'll
I
consolidate and answer it.
yes.
I don't have the poll on my screen yet.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
Carry
At
on.
whichever time you can trigger it, it's fine. So, guys, let's continue. Five.
Subhashini?
So, the interesting thing is that in a current article, in Forbes, we've understood that 5 in 10 organization actually have a recruitment dashboard. So, even if they don't have a very formal ATS, as Vivek has pointed out, can you put up an ATS in Excel? Yes, you can. But it will just need you to sort of create it with macros and the like. But nowadays, ATSs are available at a very reasonable rate. So, it's again that cost effort thing that you have to see. The dashboard actually helps us understand where are my problems and how is my hiring funnel. So, see, finally, if you're paying so much attention and putting effort to build up your data, you want to understand that which are the how is the data spanning out, right? When it comes to hiring processes, you want to use this data to drive your hiring processes. You want to remove bias that exists because of us monitoring certain parts of the business and not monitoring others. Okay, or maybe even some legacy issues which existed, which don't exist today, but our mind remembers them. So it's always good to go back to data and check it intermittently, and a recruitment dashboard is a great way to visualize the data related to recruitment. At least once a month, we should try to look at it, to discuss it, to understand who are the type, what is the change in the type of applicants, hires, campaigns, and budgets that we can see. Now, at the end of it, it's not even only about looking at the data. It comes up to the fact that can you take away some insights? So when your team, your dashboard efforts have reached this level where you can actually start taking out insights, you are ready for the next level, which is improving the recruitment strategy and improving efficiency of processes. Do you agree that it's a stepwise process? So it may take you about 6 months to start off with a recruitment dashboard and then reach that maturity where you are able to actually take out monthly insights of the recruitment dashboard and take a call. Is this good? Is this bad? Etc. When you reach that stage, when you can use your recruitment dashboard and feel comfortable with taking calls on it, then you're ready to do the next step, which is improving the recruitment strategy and the efficiency of the recruitment process on the basis of data. This is the point when you can start with analytics. Now, why did I cover it this way? Because sometimes I'm asked this question: how do I know my organization is ready to start on the analytics journey? Or sometimes CHROs tell me, we are too young. We are not mature enough for analytics. And then I try to tell them that, see, this is a good way to look and see, are you ready for analytics? So analytics is nothing but problem solving using data. Now, what is a problem? How will you decide? If you start taking a poll in the organization, you will find that everyone has their own view. What is the problem? Right, Amita?
Yes, definitely.
So a good way to do it is to check which metrics are you not meeting. Every organization in the beginning of the year puts down some sort of budget, some sort of targets. At that point, it's a good thing to see which targets and budgets you're not meeting, right? So
Yes.
today we are here to talk about three distinct case studies. One deals with turnaround time or the cycle time of recruitment, and how we could address a problem that we got in our consulting with a digital journey, and some metrics that we could track. We will cover one case study on sourcing strategy. How did we figure out and suggest a right sourcing strategy for a different set of problems in an organization? And then the third case study deals with reducing joining dropouts. This is especially true for ITES companies, I find, when lots of people accept the offer but may not join. So let's look at what are the types of data that is available. All the ones in blue talks about the easiest set of data that is available in an organization. So 80% of the organizations have some or the other kind of data around recruitment, learning management, succession planning, demographic of the employees, performance management, compensation and exit interviews, job architecture, and talent development. The green boxes show the data which are not so important or sometimes not so prevalent. This could mean data around learning, employee survey, travel, mentoring, well-being and wellness, and absence data. And on the right side, the red boxes tell us about the data which often comes in from business or other departments. CRM, financial data, production management, sales data, and other sources. Right? This slide should help you think that which are the boxes which you feel you can tick mark in your organization. When you look at applicant tracking system and HRMS data, these data are pretty well sorted, right? So you have the employee ID or you have the lead management ID, and you will have all the factors related to jobs, departments, locations, etc., um, associated with that ID. So it's easy to manage and very structured. There is another kind of data which sometimes we don't talk about, which is the understanding of your talent database, which is actually the details related to competencies, which could be personal effectiveness, academic, workplace, or industry wide technical competency, and how people are maturing across it. So this is the type of data which actually tells you, suppose you had a whole pool of management trainees, which of them has actually progressed faster and is in a position to take on a next level of roles. So, high potential identification, etc., comes out of this type of data. This is also today by far the most neglected type of data. So we definitely do capture it at hiring, but often do not maintain it, in the sense we don't have processes that every year will see what is the difference or what is the improvement in the manpower that exists in the company. Now, here I wanted to just spend 2 minutes talking about how easy it is today to look at different types of data and do different types of statistical procedures. So I'm sure you all can think back about your feeling about maths, right? What was the feeling? Did you all enjoy maths class or statistics class? Yeah. Okay. Pat says he did, but Nizar says no. So yes, so in fact, a lot of people don't enjoy maths, and I think that is predominantly because we get confused with the formula. Okay, but if you look at the words which signify the different procedures in maths, it's pretty much, you can look them up in the English dictionary and it means exactly the same. So like descriptive statistic means describing the data. Okay, and moving averages means the average which keeps changing. Okay, so regression means doing something over and over again. Okay, so what I'm trying to tell is that in Excel today, you have this free add-in called data analysis tool pack, and this allows you to do various types of statistical procedures just by clicking the buttons. That's how easy Excel has made it. You don't need to remember formulas. As long as you know what you want to, which button you want to click, and how to interpret the outcome, you are ready to go. You are ready to take on an analytics class. Feeling happy about it?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
definitely.
Yeah. Okay, great. Okay. So at this point, I'm going to start off with the first case study, which is the turnaround time in hiring. And we know that this is extremely important in hiring, right? Do you agree? However
Yes.
good the resource, you really cannot spend too much time trying to onboard the person. And today, the example that I'm taking is for a manufacturing organization, fairly large organization. And here, the HR team deliverables were pretty constant. So the hiring team had to focus on the turnaround time for hiring. And the way that the budgeting had been done for junior employees, the turnaround time was for 20 days. And their performance was dismal. Only 10% of the time they actually met that 20 days stat. 2 months for middle employees, middle management employees. Here they met their target 60% of the time, and 6 months for leadership employees. And here the hiring team actually met their targets 90% of the time. Okay. So this is the type of organization for which we were called in to do a project and work on how to improve the turnaround time. This will, you can understand how important the turnaround time for the junior hiring becomes, because the average tenure that a junior guy spent in this organization was only 1.5 years, only 18 months. Okay. So there was this constant churn and this constant effort to get these guys up in time. They had a pretty standard process, and this process had been going on for long. So you started off with the business sharing a JD with the human resources team, where you had deliverables, competencies, and the average CTC that was expected. There was the process of CV shortlisting by the human resources team, which should be approved by business. Interview one, which was with the HR team, interview two, which was with the business team, and interview three, which was optional, but if it did happen, it was with the business team. So interview three invariably was done only for places where you wanted to further check some particular competencies. At the end of these 5 steps, you could release the offer letter and the candidate could join in. Is this looking like the organization you work in? Are you able to relate to this?
So just to add to that, what we have tried to do is we have tried to incorporate, a case study from each of the industry segment. So we are looking at one organization which is primarily manufacturing. Another organization which you will see subsequently will be more about feet on street or a sales organization. The next we would talk about is an ITS. So this is a very typical representation of how does the TET looks like, and how we moved the next step on that. So just
Yes.
waiting for your feedback. Is it something which you face on a day-to-day basis, or what is your viewpoint on that? Yes,
Yes.
so I think
Great.
everybody
So,
says it's very typical of them. So I think let's
yes.
move on. Yeah.
So when we looked at the data, this was the data types of data that was available in the ATS HRMS. From the JD, there was the role, reporting manager, experience, education, location, budget, and CTC. From the CV or resume that the candidate put in, there was education, location, experience. previous employers, age, languages known, projects, and certifications. And then for the three levels of interviews, you had the scores and the recommendations of the interview panel. Finally, for the offer letter, you had the starting offer, closing offer, and the joining date that was expected. Standard stuff and very well maintained. So when we went in for consulting, we did two things. One is that we try to map out the process. So if you see here that if a job is posted and the CV application comes in on day one, and if 100 people apply, we find that the CV shortlisting used to take about 3 days. Now here you remember that I had shown you that it was the HR plus the business approval for CV shortlisting. Okay. So HR was invariably, coordinating with business here. Then the interview one was done, which was an HR interview. And out of these 100 people, 90 people CVs were shortlisted, and then 70 people ended up being called for interviews, if you can see. But then when they came for interviews, what you found
Yes,
is
again.
that
Right.
30, yes, 30 people were rejected and 40 people went on to interview stage, two stage. This also took 3 days. But when these 40 people were asked to come for interview two, only 20 used to arrive. So there was a sudden drop in the people after the first level of getting selected. They just didn't seem to want to go ahead. Okay, so 20 came. Now, when this 20 guys got interviewed, 10 were selected and 10 were rejected. But then when they were called for interview three, again there was a drop of nearly 50%. So only five would come for interview three. Okay. After that, it was straightforward. You went on for interview. Most people, there was hardly any rejection in interview three stage. Most people got an offer letter. Half of them got an offer letter, but again, half only would join. So if you started off with a pool of 100 candidates, you could expect one candidate to join. Okay. This was quite a surprise for them because when we actually mapped it and saw, the company was surprised. And the problem statement, which had started off with being reduced turnaround time, actually became this, that also reduce good candidates dropping off. Because what was the discovery on the way? That good candidates were dropping off. So we went through the statistical method and we ran a correlation. As the word itself says, this is discovering relationship of the problem statement with the other variables in the data. And what we came out with was something like this. That the biggest thing was that the good candidates were dropping off. So the good way to go about it is, okay, Vivek, I can see you have multiple questions and we will come back to it. Just let's finish the case study. Just park it on the side.
Yeah, just
So,
some time. Yeah.
yeah.
We'll take up all the questions. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So so when we came back to the management and told them that this is how it is, the management said, "Fine, Subhashini, go ahead, propose something which you think will work for the junior hiring." Okay, and if it works there, we will take it up for middle and senior hiring, which, as per them, were the most serious type of hiring, right? So I recommended this digital journey, hiring journey for the junior hiring. What we did is this, as simple as this, we introduced pre-screening, which was integrated into the company's portal itself. And this pre-screening, we introduced a system triggered profiling and skill assessment. So the process for JD shortlisting pretty much remained the same. That the person applied and the JD was shortlisted, but instead of business also having to shortlist, the HR would quickly just trigger off the pre-screening one, which was a psychometric profiling, which told you, was this person serious about the job and was he a long-term candidate or not? This took about 5 minutes. So in the same day, that the person applies, the system would trigger a message and you got pre-screened psychometric profiling. And next thing was to check for skills. This also was automated on the company's portal so that you could quickly measure the basic skill levels. If it was met, then came the interview. So what I'm showing you here is interview one. which was with the HR, where HR used to spend considerable time to coordinate with candidate, decide which is a good date and all. That was done away with. Straight off, the interview moved to interview two, where the business and the HR person could sit together and work with the candidate. Even the interview three, because you might remember from the earlier funnel, that in interview three stage, virtually nobody was removed, okay, or screened out. Only one out of five was screened out. So it was more as a cross check of competency. So that too was put into a testing format, so that when the person came for interview two, he would also spend 20 minutes taking a small test to understand his competency level in the office premise itself. Hence, on day three, the HR was able to share either an offer letter or a rejection email with the candidate. So that's how fast it went. There was no ambiguity. Oh, I'm coordinating with this candidate. This candidate is not applying, etc. That sort of ambiguity, that stress went away. Now, what benefits we could see in 3 months is like this. The turnaround time for the high volume junior segment came down. So, in 20 days earlier, they were recruiting only 10% of the people. Today, they started recruiting up to 50%. They were meeting 50% of their targets. The stress level in the recruitment team came down because they felt they were in control of the funnel. And the surprising part, or a hidden benefit which we had not anticipated, came out, which was infant mortality, which is after the employee joins within 30 days he attrites. That also reduced from 10% to 4.5%. Now, this is called a lagging indicator, right? This is a metrics or an indicator which goes or tags behind your hiring practices. So, this lagging indicator also showed a considerable improvement, and this stage became set to take on this project to the middle level hiring. So this is one place where a combination of the data and then the insights out of the data has helped the organization manage the turnaround time for hiring.
Okay.
So at this, before we go to the next
Yeah,
case
so this
study,
is wonderful, Subhashni. And
yes.
for those of us who are mathematically challenged, if you can just elaborate on the leading and lagging indicator a bit, and then we will take the questions.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, as the word itself says, leading indicators are those indicators which will tell you that something is going to happen. So, when you run a correlation, you come to know that something is going to happen. If this matrix has moved, the next matrix will also move. For example, and I'll take a very common example. We know that if we study for a certain amount of time, like we cover all the chapters in before our test, we will get good marks in the test, right? So covering all the chapters in the test is the leading indicator, and the getting good marks in the test is the lagging indicator. It will get affected when you affect the leading indicator. So if you put that part right, you know that the next part will automatically flow. Is this
Yes.
making sense?
Yes. To a large extent, yes, Subhashni.
Yes. So, so it becomes very important, and correlation is the relationship between variables, right, or attributes. So, correlation helps you understand which attribute should I increase, which attribute should I decrease, so that I can get my desired effect.
So we will take the questions now. And so I think one of the first questions was, can we do it on Excel
Excel.
sheet?
Yes.
Yes, it is very much possible to do on Excel. I mean, you can analyze the basic set of data. But only thing, if you don't have an ATS or HRMS, what will happen is for all the resume flow which you are getting in through whatever sources, whether it is through email or through, WhatsApp or whatever it is coming through, you will have to manually upload the data onto the Excel sheet. So that is adding one more step to your entire process.
Correct.
I mean, before you are able to take out some meaningful insights into it. So that is it. Otherwise, there is no challenge as far as using Excel sheet is concerned. And in any case, ATS and HRMS have improved and refined their working in last 4 or 5 years back only. Before that, everybody was on Excel sheet or on notebook. So this is fine. We can do it on Excel sheet. There is no issue with that. In
Now,
case you don't have an ATS, But ATS has its own benefit, but we will talk about it a little later because that's not the subject of this webinar. And next question, I believe, is from uh, simplifies and displays our effort. So next question is, what should we do when all your strategy sourcing mix fails to get people on board? So again, we come back to the, what Subhashini said, ki this is exactly the kind of reflective of this, scenario, what you're talking about, Vivek, and to everybody who's asking this. Only thing which we have not looked at it in this funnel is that, what is your sourcing mix? Are we looking at agency hire? Are we looking at, uh, sourcing through social media, or we are looking at sourcing through job portals or through relying on our website? So we will have to add another dimension of our sourcing mix to be able to answer this question. But yes, if we do tweak our hiring strategy, I'm sure we will be able to get the people on board. The other thing is also, which could also be happening, is, and it can also give us some indication, is that whether the JDs on which we are hiring are over ambitious. It can also give us an indicator of that if we run it properly, or the kind of skill sets we are looking at it is available in the market or not, or maybe a comp is an issue depending on what kind of a dropout ratio we are having. So there could be so many different scenarios which can come out of it once we do a proper analysis of it. And
Yeah,
I'm sure, we will be able to get people on board. Nothing to worry about. I mean, sometimes,
you
it
should
does take
contact
time.
Amitabh. He'll help you with your sourcing strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope, Vivek, it answers your question, or anybody else has any other question to related to that before we move on to the next set of case study. Thank you. So, Subhashini, you can move on to the next case study.
Yes. Like Amitabh was saying, Vivek, sourcing strategy is a big thing, and sometimes we are not able to understand that where exactly is the problem. For which, of course, we need to make an effort to do some sort of analytics to understand or pinpoint, or that exactly what is the disconnect, why is this not working, right? Which is that indicator which is so off that is not making this process go smoothly. So here I've brought in an example of this company. You remember in COVID, this is a ITS. Vivek says maybe we are over ambitious on onboarding that. That is also quite possible. Maybe you should do a expectation setting for your management team, saying that, see, with these, with this type of team or these type of jobs, we are being over ambitious. That's also quite possible.
Yeah, so that is also, we can also look at it, for the kind of profile you are hiring. What is the expected notice
Yeah.
period? Typically, an
Yes.
organization runs. If you are hiring a software engineer, and most of the software companies have 30 to 60 days of notice, and that is 15 days, is not going to work.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Now, here we are talking about this particular financial services firm. In COVID, they had to shut down multiple branches. Business had really gone down. And post COVID, they wanted to pick up on the hiring. So they wanted to hire 700 customer interfacing employees in 5 months. And these are the feet on street, but they were called sales and customer success employees. The good part was they had some of these parts already done. Like they knew who's the ideal employee, somebody who knows the local language, who's independent in movement, so he has a two-wheeler. Education, they were not very worried about. As long as you were 10th pass, that was fine. Smartphone usage was important because all of their processes you could, sort of work on a smartphone, and their financial integrity had to be high. They should not take the money from the customer and run away. So now, what was in the organization itself, there was a lot of unrest. Now, why this? Because the central sourcing strategy had failed. Okay. And this had led because the business had protested that they take so long to onboard people, they're not able to give enough people for the regional locations, and it is leading to business loss. So the business had pushed for local sourcing strategy by branch managers, saying that the branch manager should recruit people or boys or runners from around. Now, HR therefore was only sent the Aadhaar photo and the bank details to onboard the candidate, and then month on month they had a concept of giving an incentive plus the basic salary depending on this person meeting his targets. So they had simplified it, automated it to this level. Is this clear? Any queries here? It's becoming a big thing for many retail organizations as well as for retail lending organizations. So I'm sure a couple of you have seen situations like this. Now, what was of concern to the management or the CEO was these two things. Had been cases of fraud. Some employees had been taking two salaries. Okay. And the second thing that was amazing was that was disturbing was that there was an employee disappearance rate. So they had given, I told you, na, the processes. Uh, I think we can just,
There is some background noise which we are getting. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So there was high employee disappearance rate. So this was tracked by smartphone usage, and the smartphone, they had an app which used to give GPS coordinates of the employee back to the database. Okay. So HR was accountable for hiring, but it had no control on recruitment because the branch or regional guy was doing it. And the idea was how to change the sourcing strategy to avoid frauds and employee disappearance. This was the project that we were given. So as an analytics intervention, what we did is we took the data from fraud cases. This included data around location, branch, managers, employee tenure, age, performance month on month. All this was very well maintained by the organization. And the statistical, statistics we used was clustering or segmentation. And the outcomes we wanted was we wanted to identify the common factors in these fraud cases. Okay. Then, of course, we had also spoken about employee disappearance. So the disappearance, also we got all this data that we spoke about for fraud. Plus, we took two, three more attributes. We took education, engagement, and customer complaints. The methodology used in both was clustering, and the outcomes was to identify common factors. In one data, we wanted to understand common factors of fraud employees. Another data, we wanted to understand common factors of people who disappeared. You'll see on the right side, this picture is, a representation of how clustering outcomes look. So they sort of tell you which people have similar trends. So what was the outcome? We found out what were the major drivers of fraud and employee disappearance. So there were some similar variables that came out, like location, education, and age of the person. But there were some variables which turned out to be unique to frauds. One was high performance. So it seemed that high performance feet on street actually showed larger percentage of fraud. Longer tenure in the system. So they had stayed in the system long enough to try to beat the system. And then if their manager had changed in the last 3 to 6 months, so they had started, perhaps they knew just a bit more than the new person who had come and become the manager. Okay. So once we came to this conclusion, these are the outcomes over here that we put out. That for the high risk branches, we should have an HR SPOC and local agencies through which candidate sourcing should be done. So the sourcing strategy could not be the same, that the branch manager brings in anybody he likes. It had to move to local agencies to support at least the high risk branches. Then the next part was the education itself, that branch managers were sanitized to the warning indicators. Okay. And finally, we had added one psychometric profiling survey, which was available in all languages and on mobile with video proctoring as a mandatory process of pre-onboarding, so that the central HR could also get some data of the person. And it wasn't that they just didn't know who was being interviewed or who was being considered, and only the Aadhaar and bank account was handed over to them by the location. So these were three practices which helped this company scale up its hiring to the extent of meeting its targets. So, do you find this relevant? Like, have you also seen situations like this? I know that
Yeah.
Vivek has mentioned the sourcing strategy part.
No, this is very much relevant because a lot of us who are working for companies, and who are working for companies which is requires a large amount of field manpower,
Yes.
and it is or whether what we call as feet on the street, and not just for NBFCs and all, even for organizations which are into selling. So looking at it, their data point, whether they have got the sourcing strategy right or not, and how can we build upon the right. Yes, it is very, very important for us to understand this part of it. Yeah.
And we should also understand that perhaps the same uniform sourcing strategy may not work for everyone or every segment of your data. So I think that is one thing which we should all also keep an eye that, maybe certain segments, instead of looking at all the hiring as one uniform segment, it may make sense to divide it into certain segments which seem to have different trends. Any questions here, or should we go ahead to the next one?
Okay, before you move, Subhashni, the polls will have to be launched by you.
Oh,
Wherever you want, you can.
okay.
Thank you.
Then let's look at reducing joining dropouts. This is related to a project that we had done with a young ITS company which wanted to grow from 100 to 200 employees. But in its speed, it wanted to hire fast, it wanted to hire smart, but only 50% of the people who it made an offer to and who accepted the offer would join. 50%, that is 5 in 10, that is 1 in 2 would not join. They just didn't come. There were times when they may have told them that, okay, you join and that day your induction will start. And the induction training was waiting to start. And, you need a minimum batch of 20 people to join and you didn't have it. So they were very worried and they wanted to understand, is there some way to reduce joining dropouts? Is this a common problem that we are seeing currently, especially for certain segments where the skills are a bit more rare? Yes, yes, I agree. We are seeing it, especially where the skills are a bit more rare. So what was the data that we considered? We considered data around position, like junior, middle, senior skills. That were they the latest skills or old school skills? So, latest skills, when I say, I mean robotics and machine learning, AI, analytics, data science, or older school skills like Java, React, etc. Home location of candidate versus job location. So this company was based out of Chennai, and it would be not be surprising to you to understand that we found that a lot of candidates who were more than 500 kilometers away from Chennai would not join in finally. Previous employers, CTC budget versus industry average in terms of what salaries were paid, and some profile information of the successful candidates. Now, successful candidates was defined by this company as those employees who had joined them and stayed with them for 18 months. So that was the successful candidate in this case. So here again, there is one thing that you can understand is that you end up having to define what works for that organization. Sometimes it's not possible to take uniform data and work on it. In this case, we actually created a predictive analytics algorithm for them so that they can understand right at the point of application what is the chance that this candidate will join them or not join. So if you want to know what is a linear regression equation, so this is how it happens that, it's not that any two candidates is exactly the same. but there are candidates who are closer to the similar line, right? And that set of candidates have a chance of joining, while the ones who are further away from the line have less amount of chance to join. What do you think when you look at this and realize that somebody is closer to the line of joining and some is further away? What do you think would be your recommendation to the company? What do you think you would tell the hiring manager or the hiring team?
A bit more actually, this graph.
So, this guy out here, right?
Yeah.
Would you want to spend your time interviewing him if you know that the chance of his joining is very less?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
No, right? So, what it helps to do is it helps the team to prioritize who they want to turn around faster than the others. Okay, who have a higher chance of joining, let's work on them. So, what happened is that we created for them a digital hiring process through algorithm. Now, earlier, you remember it was through a process change itself, saying that quickly bring in uh, uh, measurement tools which will do the measurement from you from your side and allow you to take a call on the good candidates. Here what we did is we built the algorithm which would look at the CV or application in the ATS, and once it was input it would divide the candidate and give a score saying is he likely to join or is he not likely to join. Okay. So when we made, so even this process of creating the data was two pronged. First, we created the data looking at only the HRMS data, and we found that we needed that algorithm wasn't that effective. So then we actually did some psychometric on the successful guys, right? The candidates who had stayed with the company for 18 plus months, and they then included that, it made it into a two-stage information flow, and with 80% accuracy, the system started telling them, oh, as soon as somebody's CV came, what's the chance he will join? So if he actually passed through all the levels and got selected, what's the chance he would join? Now, this led to the hiring team efforts being focused and 80% joining rates in 2 months of implementation. This went up from 50% people coming and joining to 80% people coming and joining. So everyone was like really happy, right? Ecstatic.
Yes.
Yes. Business
Because
was
what is
happy.
happening is that, we are focusing on the people who are more likely to join,
Yes.
instead of trying to be, there all over the place, trying to look for, talk to all the candidates. And although, there is something called what I would call as a gut feel of the recruiter, that
Yes.
when we speak to the candidate, we do, understand, who's the most likely and who's going to be the ideal fit. But too often what happens is because there are so much of, flow of candidates, that we get lost into it, and
Correct.
we are not able to understand, okay, this guy is good, this guy is not so good, and this guy is very good. No, very good, whether he will come into our organization or not, that is another question.
Yes.
So
Yes.
if we can, understand, what is going to be our best fit, and just focus on those candidates first. I mean, as a priority one, as what we in recruitment parlance call as P1 and P2 candidates. So we look at our best fit candidates as our P1 candidates, and we process them first, and then we can, expand the envelope
Absolutely.
to look
Absolutely.
at it. Because, while it is good to have, this information, it can also, we could also be losing out, some of the disruptors also in the process.
Yeah. See,
So
the accuracy was 80 to 90%, right? So 80%, that's still 20% error. So
yeah,
there,
yeah.
the machine is also not 100% sure. It just allows you less exhaustive method to quickly go through a larger volume.
Yeah, because this is very typical, because what you will see is that, see, there are always, human beings are so ingenious, we will always find a way to beat the system.
Yes.
So what it does is that at least, if you are getting it right in 80% of the cases, I would assume that 20% of the people will always, beat the systems. And some of it could be due to genuine reasons also. So, somebody getting retained by the organization, somebody getting a better offer. So these things do happen. But yes, if we are able to push up every extra candidate, rather every extra candidate we bring into the system, means that typically you have to go through at least 20 to 25 candidates to get one joining. So that means you are reducing the effort of talking and screening those 20 25 profile, if you can just bump up one extra candidate into the system.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Can I add a point? I mean, this is not a question really. My own experience working with some of the businesses
Yeah.
here. So most organizations are struggling to grow their business, right? They only
Yeah.
say sales is not happening. But why the sales is not happening finally comes down to HR analytics, right? So, for example, with one of the clients, when you actually ask them in terms of show me the data, in terms of why the productivity is not happening, we found that the attrition level was close to about 30% in that company. That was the first level data which was shared by data. We have about 30% attrition, which is contributing to the problem. I said, you give me the data for the first 3 months. How many people leave within 90 days of joining? How many people leave within 180 days of joining? Right? You'll be surprised, Amitabh, that 65% of the new joinees were leaving within 6 months.
Yeah, yeah.
40% were leaving within the first 3 months, right? Now that data was being overlooked by everybody. Sales was overlooking, HR was overlooking, but the business impact of that was huge because they spent so much of time hiring, and then within 3 months they've lost 40% of them. So they again back to the hiring process. So I finally asked them, are you a sales organization or are you a hiring organization? All you're doing is hiring, firing, hiring, firing, right? So I think from an HR analytics point of view, I think if you can also look at what is the business loss that's happening because of not using these analytics.
Yeah.
I mean, those kind of case studies would really be a lot more.
Yeah, so maybe CK, we are just focused on one part of it. We have
Yeah.
not gone into the mathematics and financial impact of it, because then we could also look at cost per hire is another metrics
Yeah,
which
I know.
over which recruiters always get hammered on, and the other part of it is also about overall cost of onboarding a new talent. So every problem statement would require a different solution. If we are looking at cost of reducing the cost of onboarding, then we may have to look at a solution where the day the person hits the organization, he is up to date and he knows what is to be done.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that whole the learning cycle of bringing up the person up to speed, we can cut.
Wonderful. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
so
the
that
only thing is such a
also,
vast topic. Yeah, it's such a vast
yeah,
topic.
it's a vast topic, and we have just let me put it that way, as we say, we have just touched the tip of the iceberg, and the idea is basically to give some flavor of how analytics can help the recruitment team in their day-to-day tasks, how they can become more, not, I would not say focused or efficient, because recruiters are focused and efficient. It is just that how they can make management realize that they are focused and efficient. And typically you will have somebody, when you go for these kind of meetings, you will have somebody from finance and you will have somebody from other functions, and they will say, okay, show me the data, and then you get lost. So it helps some of the recruiters get into understand what data is required to make better hiring predictions, better hiring decisions. That is what is our idea, is just to give a flavor of it. And so once, if you can talk a little bit more about the kind of dashboard which we are giving as a giveaway, that will also be wonderful.
Right, Amitabh. So, Pralab has asked, how may I
We
know?
can go back to the questions a little later. If you can just
Yeah.
talk about the dashboard hiring, that Excel which we are giving as a giveaway to all the participants. How
Okay,
to use
sure.
it.
And I'll share the link out. So
Yeah.
we're sharing out a Excel dashboard in the WhatsApp group, where you can just put in the data related to your hiring, and it will calculate the turnaround time for different segments of hiring that you do. You can input that data on an overall basis, like for every case that you're doing, and it will automatically calculate and give you some of the dashboards. Now, here I'll go back to what Pralab has asked, that may I know this algorithm is reading the minds of employees, whether they are likely to join or no. So, Pralab, it doesn't mean read minds. What it does is it just looks at the earlier set of data. And if you found that people who are further away from Chennai, or who have certain traits don't end up joining this type of an organization. It just will show you that. So it says that it works on the likelihood, the chance that somebody of this profile would join this type of an organization. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah.
So I think
So
Dr. Madan also mentions it knocks out the some undesirables, right? At least you eliminate some of the risks in the process.
So a little off the topic, let me put it across, but I will still bring it up. There is a wonderful series on Netflix called Mindhunters, and this is how do they look at build the data set around finding the the right profile. So it's a very good mix of what you call as reading the mind. But how do you read the mind? You build it through a set of data points, and how do they do it? Maybe one of these days, those of us who are Netflix addicts or who subscribe to it can look at this series. It's a wonderful series if you want
You
to
can share it in the
go
WhatsApp
through.
group, maybe.
Yeah, I will
Abhishek.
share it on this group here also. It's called Mind Hunters.
Like there is one thing we do to check if the person is income dependent, yeah, mind hunters. So
Yeah.
we have found that especially if you're looking at junior employees, and if they are not really at this current point dependent on income, then they become choosy or they may not join. Chance is less. But if the same type of people have a higher dependency on income, they have higher chance of joining if you can close out the position faster. So these are some of the insights which come, but it varies for every organization. And it's always interesting to look at the data of your own organization to understand. I remember doing another project where they actually spend a lot of effort to increase the employee engagement, only to find that increasing engagement did not really reduce attrition. Okay. So the engagement scores became very good, but that did not reduce the attrition because attrition drivers were different for that organization. So it's always very interesting, and I'm sure each one of us can look at our data and talk about different projects that we can do. I manage your hiring, but technically, would you, if you find a sound person who is not psychologically fit, do you want to take him? That's a question you should answer. And I find most organizations feel that is not so. So I would rather not take a very, very highly talented person. Okay, no problem, Vivek.
That's okay.
That's no issues. Thanks for sharing that. So I would not take a highly talented person if I knew that this person is not, his integrity was questionable, or is not going to stick with my organization for long. So that's what we find, that in hiring funnels, first psychometry comes, then comes the skill.
So one of the fundamental, when we started the hiring was that, a fundamental lesson which was given to one of my bosses was that as an organization,
Hello, guys.
yes,
Hi.
Hi, this is Vivek. I'm asking the questions on the chat, but I'm not able to open my video. Just
yeah,
I
yeah,
just
no,
query actually in this session. If we decide psychometric test first for any position, right, to be filled, see that will increase your TAT because the people you're getting in the market, they may have a good psycho, they may have good technical knowledge, but how you decide, because that is important part to fill the position as per the management expectations. So the challenge is with me is if now we have a lot of positions to fill, but if we go the psychometric test first, and the guy was good into when we discuss as a HR point of view, was very good into that discussion part, but he fails into psychometric test. That obviously increase your TET to fill the positions. So I'm facing this challenge in my current organization. How to deal with this situation? Can you guide me?
See, I'll tell you from my experience. We work with one organization. I think I mentioned it also. They make black boxes for aircrafts. Okay, and they take highly talented, technically sound people, very specialized. And that company is an AI company. All clients are in the US, and they are very clear. They are in a hire and fire. Like once you finish the project, I have no use for you. I am not expecting you to multitask or look at a different project and value add. You are a specialist in this part, you come, you fulfill your quota, you leave. Now in that type of a concept, you don't care much about the psychometrics of it, right? What you need is somebody who comes, delivers and leads. Skill is all that matters, right? Now, there's the other guys like a Tata, where I was working there, and you could move from technology to sales, from sales to human resources. You were the kind of person that Tata hires. Their skills were transferable. They didn't put on too much for skills. So here, Vivek, you will have to take a call, or your organization has to take a call, that what do you want to do with the employees?
Great, great. Yeah.
Yes,
And
Rakshit.
also the other part of it is also you will have to look at it, whether your psychometrics is measuring the right attributes or not. Is it what you are measuring is what you require?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So that is another aspect of it, because sometimes we get thrilled by looking at the various names of the, okay, let's do this profiling, let's do this, that, let's do Hogan. But do we really have? Because ideally, if you look at it, a psychometric profiling you have to first look at it, what is your ideal fit? Have you done the enough benchmarking within your organization? Do you know what is your right profile which you need to have? A lot of times we don't do all this, and what we look at is, okay, this is a good psychometric profile. Somebody will come and tell us, let's go and implement it. So maybe you need to relook at what kind of an attributes you are testing in your psychometric test also.
That is
Is
true,
it
sir.
really job requires or not?
So that's true. Actually, it is depending on the level of maturity of the company. Actually,
Yes.
so
Yes.
I'm facing this challenge in our company, which of course we can improve upon. So
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you so
definitely.
much for your all guidance. Yes, thank you so
Yeah.
much,
Yeah.
sir.
Thank you so much.
Vivek, if I can add a point here, my name is Pads, part of HR Bros. The psychometric profiles are qualitative. As Amitabh clearly said, it will the same tool will mean different for different organizations. It has to be first aligning and mapped to an organization ecosystem that you have developed, and they are qualitative per se, and also they are inference based. For example, a profile test that I take today, 3 months later, my response would be completely different. So assessment can go wrong, different. I would not say right or wrong. So that keeps changing. It's very qualitative, very very subjective. Subject to the response as an applicant that I take, the response that I give at that point in time. So for a tech organization like Subhashni and Amitabh said, that for a tech organization, priority is the tech skills, right? Depending on the culture that we want to build, longevity, and so many other factors, the psychometry can be looked at as a secondary or a periphery tool. And anyway, all psychometry tools gives you one disclaimer that the tool is not standalone decision maker. It can
Yes,
only be a value add. It can be read in conjunction with something else together.
absolutely.
That's where it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yeah.
So it's
So
what you
Vivek,
go to the doctor
yeah.
and they will put a disclaimer, please correlate clinically.
Vivek, there are enough experts on this group. You can please reach out to us on the WhatsApp
Yeah.
group. I think all your queries will be answered
Yeah.
Thank you.
beyond what
Uh,
cannot be answered now. Yeah.
I think we're getting some requests to share the link of the WhatsApp group
I've
here.
already done it. I've already
Yeah,
done this. Yeah.
yeah. I'm not able to paste anything into
No, no,
the
I've done it. I've already done this link. I've already pasted the link. So I think if there are no
Okay,
more
done.
questions, any other questions from anyone?
Dr. Madan, would you like to add anything? There? Or anybody else?
So I think in that case, we will call it off. And thank you so much for wonderful participation. And do reach out if you need any help in terms of psychometrics, analytics, or HR tech, or any other HR related topic. We'll always be happy to help you solve this. And do join us for our next session, which will be on POSH. It is on 21st November. We will just come back and communicate the details. Thank you
Thanks,
so much.
Amitabh
Thank
and
you.
Subhashni. I think
Thanks,
we just
Subhashni. Wonderful. Yes.
covered one aspect of analytics. There's so much left to be covered. So I think we can cover it over a period of time.
Yeah.
Different kinds
Yeah.
of topics around analytics. Thank you so much
Super.
for conducting this session. I think from the comments that I'm seeing, I'm sure all the participants have gone back with some good learnings and at least open the mind. It's more important.
Yes.
Thank you, Siddharth.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to all the
Thank you.
participants. Once again, request you to join the WhatsApp group to stay connected with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Can
you.
I request the HR pros guys to stay back?
Yeah, we can.